Let's get right into it. Number 10. The monster gold nugget that couldn't exist. It is 1980, and Kevin Hillier is sweeping his metal detector across the ground in Australia. His detector starts going crazy. He digs up what looks like a giant golden potato. It was the hand of faith, weighing in at 875 ounces. That is about 27 kilograms of pure gold, worth millions today. When Kevin took it to the experts, some geologists were skeptical, suggesting it could not be real. They had their scientific papers saying nuggets this size should not exist in this area, but Kevin had an actual giant nugget of gold. After extensive testing, the experts had to eat their words. The hand of faith turned out to be the largest gold nugget ever found with a metal detector. It is now sitting in a casino in Las Vegas. The spot where Kevin found it had been searched by professional prospectors multiple times. They all passed it by because their textbooks said nothing that big could be there. Number 9. The giant jellyfish that no one believed in. Imagine you're a Japanese fisherman in the 1960s. You come back to port telling everyone about catching jellyfish the size of refrigerators. The scientists just roll their eyes. But these fishermen weren't joking around. They kept reporting these monster jellies year after year. The experts kept dismissing them as typical fishermen's tales. Then, in 2009, a 10-ton fishing trawler, the Diasan Shinsho Maru, was capsized by a bloom of these giant jellies. Turns out these Nomura's jellyfish can grow up to 6.6 feet in diameter and weigh up to 440 pounds. That's basically a jellyfish the size of a sumo wrestler. And they don't travel alone. These things show up in blooms of hundreds or thousands. Navigating your boat through this is like going through a floating minefield of giant gelatinous sumo wrestlers. Number 8. The soldier's strange rock. You're in Egypt in 1799, and you're a soldier doing construction work. You're knocking down an old wall to build a fort when you spot something weird. It's this big black slab covered in what looks like ancient graffiti. Your fellow soldiers are about to use it as building material. But this soldier, Pierre-François Bouchard, he gets this feeling that something's not right. Now, the experts at the time thought Egyptian hieroglyphics were just pretty pictures. They'd given up trying to understand them years ago. But Bouchard, he's looking at this rock and thinking, maybe we shouldn't turn this into a wall. His commanding officers probably thought he was crazy. Imagine trying to explain to your boss why you're getting worked up about some old rock with doodles on it. But Bouchard insisted, and that rock turned out to be the Rosetta Stone. You know, the thing that finally let us understand hieroglyphics after thousands of years. It had the same message written in hieroglyphics, ancient Greek, and another Egyptian script. It was basically an ancient Egyptian version of Google Translate. If Bouchard hadn't spoken up, it would have ended up as part of some random fort wall. All those secrets would have stayed buried, just because the experts thought hieroglyphics were just decoration. Number 7. The gardener's Roman road. Brian Groom is just a regular guy in Yorkshire trying to grow a nice lawn. But every summer, this one stubborn strip of grass keeps dying. He tries everything. Extra water, special fertilizer, even giving the grass a pep talk. Nothing works. Finally, he gets fed up and decides to dig up this rebellious patch of lawn. He finds a 2,000-year-old Roman road just a few inches below his grass. While archaeologists had been searching the area for years trying to map out ancient Roman routes, this guy found one because his lawn looked patchy. The road was in perfect condition, still had its original stone slabs and everything. Turns out the stones were heating up in the summer sun and basically cooking his grass from below. Those Romans might have been great engineers, but they were terrible landscapers. When Brian called the experts, they were initially skeptical, but it was actually part of a major Roman highway that connected two ancient settlements. Number 6. The imaginary forest elephants. For decades, people in Central Africa kept telling scientists there were two different kinds of elephants. The locals were like, look, we've got the big guys in the savannah, and then these smaller, darker ones that live in the forest. But the experts wouldn't have it. They were convinced it was just regular elephants that looked different because they lived in the shade. Imagine telling someone who sees these animals every day that they're just confused about what they're looking at. That's like telling a New Yorker they're imagining the difference between a subway rat and a sewer rat. The locals kept insisting, these forest elephants are different. They're smaller, their tusks are straighter, and they've got rounder ears. But the scientists were too busy being smart to actually listen. This went on for years until DNA testing became a thing. The locals were right all along. Turns out forest elephants split from their savanna cousins about 2.5 million years ago. These experts basically missed an entire species of elephant hiding in plain sight. This discovery meant there was a whole new species that needed protecting. and all those conservation efforts had to start from scratch. Number 5. The Lost Battle of Bosworth Field. For over 500 years, every historian worth their tweed jacket was absolutely certain they knew where one of England's most important battles happened. The Battle of Bosworth Field, the one where King Richard III was killed and lost his crown to Henry Tudor. They'd written countless books about it. They'd even built a whole visitor center on the spot. There was just one tiny problem. They were all completely wrong. Enter David Hallam, a regular guy with a metal detector. While the experts were giving tours of the battlefield, David was walking around a completely different field about a mile away, and he found cannonballs, lots of them. He kept searching and finding more evidence, like dozens of medieval weapons, coins, and badges, all from exactly the time period of the battle, all in this wrong location. The experts still weren't convinced, but then they found something they couldn't ignore, a tiny silver boar badge. This wasn't just any piece of medieval bling. This was Richard III's personal symbol, the kind of thing only his closest knights would wear. They had to literally rewrite the history books because one guy with a metal detector refused to believe the experts. Number 4. The fire-hunting birds. Picture this. You're an indigenous Australian, telling scientists about birds that spread wildfires on purpose. For decades, the scientists basically said, that's just a folktale. They were being told these birds grab burning sticks from wildfires, fly away with them, and then drop them in new areas to start new fires. When the new fire starts, all the tasty snacks come running out. Mice, lizards, insects. It's like DoorDash for birds, but with more arson. For decades, scientists kept saying, no way, birds aren't smart enough to use fire. Then regular people started catching these feathered pyromaniacs in the act. They got photos and videos of black kites and brown falcons picking up burning sticks. And they weren't doing it by accident. They were deliberately spreading fires to hunt. Turns out these birds had been doing this for thousands of years. The indigenous people knew it all along, but it took until 2018 for scientists to finally publish a paper admitting, okay, maybe the birds are arsonists after all. Number 3. The gardener's weed cure. It's 1785, and a Dr. William Withering keeps hearing about an old folk healer. She's treating people with deadly heart problems using some random weed she finds in the garden. Medical experts are calling her a dangerous quack. She's literally giving people foxglove leaves, a plant that everyone knows is super poisonous, but her patients are getting better. Withering tracks down this mysterious healer. He finds her in a small village treating poor people who can't afford real doctors. The medical establishment is furious. Withering notices she's very precise about which leaves she picks and exactly how she prepares them. He studied her methods and realized she'd figured out the exact right dose to help people without killing them. Today, that dangerous weed is the source of digoxin, one of our most important heart medications. The same dose she figured out is what modern pharmaceutical companies now carefully measure out in pills. The experts who laughed at her were prescribing mercury and bloodletting. Number 2. The useless rock art. Imagine being an expert archaeologist, walking past the same cave paintings for decades, thinking, just some ancient doodles. That's exactly what happened at sites across Europe. These caves had what looked like random dots and lines scratched into the walls. The experts called them primitive decorations, or meaningless marks. But in 2018, a furniture restorer named Martin Sweatman was looking at photos of these cave paintings, and he noticed something. Those random dots matched exactly with star constellations, but they weren't matching today's night sky. They matched how the stars looked over 40,000 years ago. These weren't just doodles. They were ancient star maps. Our ancestors were basically doing astronomy with stone tools. They were tracking comets and recording celestial events. The experts had literally been staring at one of the oldest scientific records in human history, and they dismissed it as cave graffiti. Number 1. The dentist who outsmarted NASA. Imagine being so sure about something that you argue with NASA. That's exactly what a man named Gilbert Levin did back in the 1970s. For added context, he was also a dentist. NASA had just released photos of Mars showing white patches at the poles. Their top scientists were absolutely certain these were dry ice deposits, frozen carbon dioxide. But Levin noticed something odd. He studied the shadows in the photos and realized something did not add up. Based on how the shadows fell, these patches had to be water ice, not dry ice. When he tried to tell NASA, they basically dismissed him, but Levin would not shut up about it. He kept insisting they were wrong. Years went by, and NASA kept saying it was dry ice. Then, in 2008, the Phoenix Mars lander dug into those white patches, water ice. The dentist was right all along. NASA's experts, with all their fancy degrees and billion-dollar equipment, had been outsmarted by a guy who told people to floss more. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.